week 2 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few running backs I looked at off the wire this week. The first one, J.K. Dobbins, Los Angeles Chargers. So J.K. Dobbins, he looked real good in his debut as a Los Angeles Charger. And right now, only available in 51% of fantasy leagues. So this obviously is the last time owners have a chance to go out there and get him. So in his season debut with his new team, 10 carries, 135 rush yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 4 receiving yards on 3 targets. So J.K. Dobbins, he went out there. He had a monster performance. And we knew coming into the year, him and Gus Edwards, it was going to be a 50-50 split for this Los Angeles Charger team. That's want to be a run-first team. And Edwards, he out-carried Dobbins by 1 carry. But in the receiving game, he out-caught Edwards by 2. So like I said, 50-50 split, with Edwards being the short yardage and the pounder. And J.K. Dobbins playing the role of obviously that home run hitting ability and the receiving back. So Dobbins, after coming off a monster performance, and I know it was the Vegas Raiders where their defense isn't that great, fantasy owners, after seeing a big ball game like that, have to go out there and get him. And he's got a great matchup with the Carolina Panthers that obviously can't stop anyone. So while Dobbins is out there in 51% of fantasy leagues, he's a running back add off the wire this week. But the only thing I would keep caution of the injury concerns, he's had a torn ACL and a torn Achilles over the last few seasons. The next running back, Zach Charbonnet of the Seattle Seahawks. I did a video in the offseason coming into the year about handcuffs, and Zach Charbonnet, one of the best handcuffs in my opinion in fantasy football. And now he might even be the starter. We'll see what this injury turns out to be with Kenneth Walker, where he left the game early with an abdominal injury, even though Seattle was in charge in that ball game for the most part versus Denver. And Charbonnet in week 1 versus the Broncos, 8 carries, 12 yards, 2 receptions, 29 yards, and a receiving touchdown. So Zach Charbonnet, I think he's a better receiver out of the backfield than Kenneth Walker. They took him in the second round in last season's NFL draft. And like I said, he's a 3-down back, Charbonnet. He's physical in between the tackles. He catch the football out of the backfield, like I mentioned. They're in a good offense where teams have to respect the pass, and Charbonnet won't have a loaded box. And like I said, if he's out Kenneth Walker for an extended period of time, Zach Charbonnet has the upside of being a top 15, 18 running back weekly. So right now, while an opportunity is definitely there, and he's available in 53% of fantasy leagues. He's an ad this week. The next running back is Jaleel McLaughlin of the Denver Broncos. So McLaughlin, coming into the year, we knew he was going to be the passing downs back, where Javonte Williams will be short yardage in between the tackles and some receiving as well he could do. So McLaughlin winning that number 2 job after Samaje Perine got cut loose and signed with the Kansas City Chiefs in the preseason. And Jameel McLaughlin in week 1 at the Seahawks, 10 carries, 27 rush yards, 5 catches, receiving yard, which obviously is fluky, and a fumble loss. So McLaughlin, him and Javonte pretty much in a 50-50 split. And the way the game scripts are going to go for the most part, I believe, for this Bronco team, he might get a lot more touches than Javonte as the year goes on. Where in week 1, Javonte only had 8 carries and 1 catch. So right now, like I said, the Broncos most likely to be trailing in most ball games, and McLaughlin could be a favorite to get more touches weekly for this Bronco team with good receiving upside, even though he had a bad week 1 at doing that. And he's available right now in 62% of fantasy league. Running backs, Bucky Irving of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Bucky Irving coming into the preseason, he was getting more touches and there was more hype around him, and he had a good ball game in Bucky Irving. I know it was some garbage time in week 1 for Bucky Irving versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but he had 9 carries, 62 yards, 2 catches, 14 yards. And the thing is, we know obviously that Rachaad White in between the tackles ain't a great running back, but catching the football out of the backfield, he's one of the best receiving backs in the league is Rachaad White. So he had 15 carries, 31 yards, which obviously isn't efficient at all, but he did add 6 catches, 75 yards. But like I said, I think Bucky Irving is going to have more of a role as the weeks go on. Available right now in 80% of fantasy leagues is Bucky Irving. And Rachaad White, he's going to be that running back that's going to be more of a receiving back, I believe, as the season goes on, where Bucky Irving in between the tackles and short yardage can help. So right now, I think for fantasy owners, they should go out there, a head start on Bucky Irving, because if this is a 50-50 split and he gets goal line touches, he could be in for good usage this season as Irving. The next running back, Tank Bigsby of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Tank Bigsby, he's a running back I spoke about a lot last season going into the year, but obviously he was a bust and he didn't really see the field for the Jaguars. But week 1, 12 carries, 73 yards versus the Miami Dolphins. Him and Travis Etienne were in a 50-50 split in that ball game, and Etienne had a big fumble in that one that was pretty much a touchdown, and he fumbled at the 1 yard line. So Bigsby, in between the tackles, a physical runner. Travis Etienne, in my opinion, is more of a finesse running back and a better receiving back out of the backfield, where Bigsby didn't even have a target. But like I said, if this backfield's 60-40 or 50-50, Bigsby could be like a Bucky Irving type in this offense, I believe, for this Jacksonville Jaguar team. So right now, while he's out there 95% of fantasy leagues, and the Jaguars like what they saw, and he almost had 7 yards per carry in this ball game, he's definitely an ad this week. Next running back, Justice Hill of the Baltimore Ravens. So Hill's been on this Raven team many years now, but injuries have always been a concern and have been the thing that has held the Hill back in his NFL career. So Hill, week 1, he got all the passing downs work with Derrick Henry. He isn't even in there at all on 3rd and long situations or passing down situations where he was a 60-40 split in week 1. I know most of these games, Baltimore is going to be running away where Henry is going to pound the rock 20, 25 times. But Justice Hill is a low-end 2 option or flex option. He had 6 catches, 52 yards in the week 1 loss at the Kansas City Chiefs. So like I said, he was in there on all the 3rd downs and longs. He was in there on the passing downs, and he fits this offense well. Was the system being there many years. So right now, while Hill's out there 96% of fantasy leagues, and he got good playing time in week 1, was Justice Hill. He's definitely running back I would go out there and add. In the final running back I looked at is Alexander Mattison of the Las Vegas Raiders. So him and Zamir White pretty much split in this ball game, and Alexander Mattison a better receiving back out of the backfield than Zamir White. So week 1, a good ball game, 5 carries, 19 rush yards, 4 catches, 43 yards, and a touchdown. So week 1, obviously it's a feel it out, and sometimes some of these players don't get the full workload. But like I said, Alexander Mattison, he could catch the football out of the backfield, the things Zamir White doesn't do. And he took a nice screen pass to the end zone in that ball game in the Los Angeles Chargers. So this week, a pretty deep week 1 waiver wire at the running back position. So some of these players definitely can help. And I think some of these players as well, just a 1-week wonder, and we won't see much out of them. So that's a few running backs I looked at off the wire for week 2 of the fantasy football season.